Hello, folks. How are you guys? It is 10 o'clock in the evening for me. Good to be here. How are you all enjoying your bank holiday? Or are you enjoying your bank holiday? I mean, I probably shouldn't presume, but I would hope you are. Welcome back. Let me see who we have in the chat. We have Rob Parks. Hello. Tusk, even though he hates musicals and everything decent. Basic Trig, how are you doing? Mike Hall, good to see you. Martin, what's the story with you? And we have Jefferson. No, we might have a discussion about we'll definitely talk about cats actually, because there's things about cats that people don't understand. I'm not a big fan of cats. Like, I like the creatures, but the musical, but it's a very simple idea. It's not a bank holiday there. Ha! So you guys don't get to celebrate August bank holiday in the same way that we do. I got an extra day off work today, paid, by the way. Mwahaha. Yeah, we have a bank holiday here. Hi, Peter. Good to see you. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about cats, because you can't talk about revisionism and why musicals will work on the stage and the screen and not mention the atrocity that was Cats. My idea of hell is a chocolate pizza musical. That can be arranged, Tusk. That can be arranged. I think we can do it. But yeah, it's something that people don't really understand of why it's important. A lot of people don't like musicals, and that's fine. We're not really, yes, we're going to talk about the actual musicals, but we're going to more concentrate on the changes from stage to screen and why. What kind of makes up a musical, what makes them successful, and why they're kind of changed for a movie-going audience or a stay-at-home audience. Hello, Meson Particle and Catnip. How are you? Good to see you. We do, but in 3 weeks. I don't know. We tend to have I don't like musicals, but I'm still here just because. I tell you what, Maison, I will give you reasons not to like them. No, I'm joking. Or maybe reasons to like them. I really love musicals. Musicals are successful because of the gays. Actually, that is a good point. The gay community has been very, very involved, because musical theater, especially, is the only place that a lot of gay people felt at home, and included and appreciated for who they were. I love me. Yeah, see, Peter knows. Peter knows. You have to stage them. Nice. So just a bit of background. I thought you were talking about. No, we're not talking about Ranty's clip with cats, who's not an actual cat who wishes he was, which also has vaguely to do with buttholes. I did see it. But yeah, no. I guess I kind of like Rocky Horror is awesome. Thank you, Mike. Because you're at a time I can actually donate to support your channel. Thank you. Yeah, I really, really appreciate that, man. And I will start doing kind of later streams, maybe. I'm trying to strike a balance between my UK audience and my US audience and everywhere else in the world. So if you'll notice, it's kind of between 10 and 1. And I don't know if you can hear, but my landlords are up on top of me doing gymnastics with their furniture for some fucking reason at 10 o'clock at night. But yeah, fun. So if I'm too late, then they give out about the noise, even though it sounds like they're fucking moving a couch every other night. But anyway, yeah, Rocky Horror is an absolute classic, and there's a reason why musicals resonate with so many people, and I know there's a lot of reasons for why people don't like them, and if you don't like them, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. Well, given the amount of banging they're doing, Rob, I do hope it's gymnastics, because if they're doing anything else, I would worry about them moving furniture, because that's what they're doing. It doesn't fucking sound like anything else, I can tell you that. It sounds like bloody thunder half the time. But, sorry, I'll eventually get this live stream started. Anyway, before I yes, and Mike, fair play to you, because you do, even if you can't make it to one of my live streams, you're always there with a comment. You always watch the stream, you always watch the video, and I really, really do appreciate it. And that means more sometimes, knowing that like you're willing to go through one of my live streams, even though I can be quite tedious at times. So thank you, seriously, and I'm glad that you're here. Well, we're going to go through some of what makes a musical a musical. So mainly it's the story. Mainly it's the story. For me anyway, for a lot of people, they resonate with the story of a musical. And because we don't really interact with music on the same level, that sometimes it's just fun to actually engage with music for 2 hours and cast aside what we would usually typically do in our ordinary lives. Because let's face it, if you walk down the street and burst into song, everyone's going to look at you like you're a fucking weirdo. So to be able to see with any entertainment, to see something out of the ordinary, a spectacle, and that's what a musical is, really. It's a spectacle that we are drawn in, and before we know it, we're engaged in the story and we're actually caring about the characters. And it's the character development that really gets people invested. So just really quickly, just to explain the kind of layout, the success stories and how they kind of lay out musicals. The layout is usually pretty standard. You have your opening number or your establishing number. That is the I am. That's the this is who we are, this is what we're about, this is what the story is about. That initial, and it has to be catchy. It has to be stuck in your head. It has to draw you in with its spectacle. So usually it's a big flashy number. And I'm talking usually now about the stage. It has to be eye-catching, because if you don't capture the audience's attention and imagination in that opening song, then you've lost them, the entire thing. The second thing then is your I want songs. So trying to think of some good I want songs. Let me see. Tonight from West Side Story. That would be a good I want. And then again, you come back in with the I am songs and reprises as well. So you have themes for every character. Usually you'll have a theme for a character that just, and some TV shows do that as well. They'll have a theme for a character if it's musically written, or if it has a score with it. So yeah, you have your I want numbers, and that is where your protagonist, your main sort of character, tells you what they want out of this story. And how they're going to get there, or how they want to get there. The I am songs are usually the ensembles, the background characters. And that's where you build your story. That's where you build your characters and say, this is why you should care about how this story develops. And then throughout that, obviously, you have the story building songs. And then you have your 11 o'clock number, which indicates to the audience this is the start of the finale. You know, this is the lead up to the climax. And talking about buttholes probably should avoid the use of the word climax, but it's the only way of saying it. So that's where the intensity of whatever's happening in the story, that's where the switch is. Okay, now we're going to start winding down. And then obviously you have your finale, which hopefully is satisfying. I would hope. And yes, we're still talking about musicals. And just as I say that, fucking Tattie walks in. Hi. And yes, I have Manda. Hello, Pale Blue Mama.
Hi. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
I know that circumstances led to me being late, not like I didn't just, I don't know. I wasn't being rude. This stuff just happened today, and I'm sorry. I apologize profusely.
You're absolutely fine. You're pretty much on time. So I was just explaining to people the kind of layout of the usual musicals. So you have the establishing number, the I am songs, you have the I want songs from the protagonist, and then you'd kind of have the reprises, the story development, the character building, and then you have the 11 o'clock number, which kind of starts the finale, and then you have the finale. So that's pretty much the framework for every musical, whether it's on screen or on stage. So yeah, that's basically where I've gotten to so far. So you're good. You're good. Just really quickly, because I wanted to share Pale Blue Mama's link. If you haven't checked out Pale Blue Mama, she's awesome. You have to check her out. And no, she doesn't usually cover musicals on her channel. Would you like to explain what you do, Amanda?
I have degrees in climate science and astrophysics. I talk about science, mostly climate science, and then I talk with secular people too. And I sometimes just have it's a lot of fighting against anti-science rhetoric. So.
And I'm hoping to have you on with PhD Tony to talk about climate science at some point. The idea of climate isn't real. Climate change isn't real.
Do you know who Phoebe J. Rose is?
I do.
She used to actually be a climate denier. And so last night she came on my channel to discuss that. And right before the show, she's like, you know what? We should do this. You should ask me the questions, but I will act like I would have acted then. So she played the role of who she used to be. And it was kind of fun. And it was awesome. I loved it. So if you get a chance, go look at my channel and see my thing with Phoebe last night. It was fun. And Phoebe's a new member of the community, and she's very sweet and awesome. So anyway,
yeah, I spoke to her on Critical Cripple's channel. I was on Critical Cripple's questions, and she was on. We had an interesting discussion. I pretty much agreed with her on most things.
Awesome. Yes, she's very
Tuskanoider.
Well, Tusk I see you
there. I see you there, Tusk. It's Sherry and Rat's ass pie. What? What is? Make her sing her apology. Tusk wants you to sing your apology for being late.
Tusk can fuck himself.
Correct answer.
I do not want to hear me sing, trust me. So.
But yeah, so I decided to have this discussion because it's a pet hate of mine. To see or not so much pet hate of mine, but it's frustrating to see things that you truly love and adore, and see it picked apart by big name stars who don't know shit about why the story was important in the first place.
Yes, that's very true. You know,
And
I honestly, I think they should. There are some, movie actors that can pull it off, but they really should have, like, if you're going to do a musical that's a movie, bring in, stage actors for it.
yeah, not looking at Russell Crowe at all.
God, that was god awful. Yeah,
we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking of the part where he commits suicide and he just looks so ridiculous, just like tumbling in over that bridge into that like 3 inches of water. What the fuck was that?
Well, so let's talk about Les Mis. We have a little Les Mis logo there. So who are you telling the wrong now? Hi, Math Pig. He wants to know who you're telling they're wrong. Mainly Tusk and idiots, I think. Well done for correcting yourself. Right. So, for those of you who don't know what Les Mis is about, Manda, do you want to explain what Les Mis is about, or do you want me to?
Well, it's one of your favorites, so go ahead. I'm not the biggest Les Mis fan, so.
So, all right. I've seen Les Mis, I think, about 14 times in the West End. So, yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. Les Mis takes place in revolutionary France. Hang on for a second, and I bring up my notes. Not that I need notes on Les Mis, but it's more about why Les Mis is shit when it comes to the fucking movie. So it starts in and around the French Revolution. There was obviously the first revolution in 1930 was to remove Charles X, which is called the July Revolution. It took 3 days. And then they brought in Louis Philippe, which coincidentally is supposedly being in Man in the Iron Mask.
Did you say 1930?
No, 1830.
Okay, there you go.
Slip of the tongue, because I'm tired.
Just so we're accurate here on this program.
Yes, 1830, you had the July Revolution. And then, so the second French Revolution, the second wave started in the 1840s, wasn't it? No. What am I saying? My brain is fucked. Yeah.
Oh, the turtle move says stars not knowing the story. Madonna. Well, yeah, okay. Madonna knew and understood the story. You're right. She really studied the shit out of that role, but like she still wasn't great in it though. Like
we can definitely talk about Evita a little bit as well, but for
addressing the comment. That's it.
Yeah. For Les Mis, it's set in Revolution France. The second king, the new king, has been brought in, and they basically want to take down the new king because of poverty rates and everything else. And he, what is his name? Louis Philippe, who the character is based on, was an actual king of France in the 1800s. And he was initially very popular and quickly became very, very, very unpopular, mainly because people were starving. So it focuses, the first part focuses on Valjean and Javert and establishing their relationship, which would go on throughout the entire musical. And the second part kind of focuses on the revolution that's going on and the building of the barricades and basically what happened and the failure of what led up to the Paris Commune. So a lot of people think that it's about the Paris Commune. It's not. It's pre-Paris Commune. What was that? We'll check this out later. Well, have fun. It's the first time you've gotten to play music live, so, well, for a while. Enjoy. So the problem that I saw with the the revising of the scripts. They first revised the script and some of the songs in the 25th anniversary. So they would take things away, really, really important plot points for the ensemble, like Turning Through the Years. I don't know if you recognize Turning Through the Years. It's mainly the women after the revolution, or after the boys have been killed. The women of Paris come out and are basically cleaning up, and it's edited for the 25th anniversary, and then it's edited further to where it's just one chorus in the movie.
Okay. I'm sure if I heard the song, I'd know it, but just the name of the song, I know. Sorry.
Not sure if I can play it, or I'll get.
No, don't. It's fine. I'll listen to it later, but don't worry about it.
The other thing that was really rewritten was at the start with Gavroche, the little boy. Usually Gavroche has one verse and chorus, and they added in an extra verse because in the stage show they have Gavroche come out and say, how do you do? My name's Gavroche. These are my people, follow me if you want to know what's going on. And then they have two prostitutes having an argument. Now, when you're putting this into a screen, onto the big screen, or even into families' homes, you can't really have two prostitutes arguing about the clap. Giving your clients the clap, because that wouldn't be a good idea. So they changed it, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have a discussion about what is revisionism. Why is it important to notice? Not even that. In some ways, it helps the plot. In other ways, which I'll get into later, it really fucking annoys me, because changing the plot, sometimes you change why the thing worked in the first place. Cats is a great example of that. And yes, we will talk about Cats later.
God, why? Like, Cats isn't even worth talking about as the musical itself, let alone with that monstrosity, whatever the fuck they put on the screen.
It's not a great musical, and yet it's so popular. And there's a very, very simple reason why. And it's so simple that they fucked it up even worse in the movie.
What's the reason why?
Right. So the thing with Cats, right? So I've explained what the normal framework is with a musical. So you have your opening number, you have your I want number, your I am songs, which is story development, character building, the 11 o'clock number, the finale. That's kind of pretty much how every musical goes. Cats saw that and scrapped it. The reason why Cats is so successful is literally the simplicity of it. The I am song, or the I want song, for most of the characters, there is no one protagonist. There is no central character. They're all pretty much saying, this is me. This is what I want. And everybody wants the same thing. Everyone wants to be a Jellicle cat. So they're all going to the Jellicle Ball to be reborn as a special Jellicle cat. The I Want song doesn't come until 3/4 of the way through the musical. And the I Want song is so powerful that it changes everyone's attitude in the entire musical. And it impacts, because right up to that point, and the I Want song, for anyone that doesn't know, is Memory. Grisabella was a Jellicle cat. She was thrown out for whatever reason. Now every time she comes around, and the other thing is touch. For cats, and not only cats, but apes too, touch is a big thing. Cats mark their scent on each other to show friendliness, to show aggression, to show dominance. And it's a way of being included. Touch to a cat is a huge, huge deal. So the whole point about Grisabella is she has gone years, literally years, without no one touching her. She has been cast out. And so memory, that climactic part of memory where she screams out, touch me, it's so easy to leave me. It's literally just saying, please, just give me something. Give me some aspect of touch, of acceptance, which is something that we all want. Moviegoers especially, we all want acceptance. We all want that way of communicating. That physical touch, though, is something that is important to the cats. And right up until that point, every time the young cats try to welcome her in, the older cats are saying no, and they prevent it until that moment where she completely changes their mind. And that's the I Want song, which you don't see throughout the musical. And it's that simplicity. There is no one protagonist. There is no one special member of the company. They all want the same thing, including Grisabella. She wants to be in with the Jellicle Cats again. And that's why it was so successful, because it's her redemption. Her redemption is complete by the simple physical touch by the cat Victoria. Now, the people who watched and decided to adapt it looked at that and said, that character who touches her, the whole point of it is the character that touches her, which is called Victoria, isn't important. She's just a cat. You know, nobody gives a shit about Victoria. So what do the producers do of Cats, the movie, decides to make the protagonist Victoria, and decides to focus in on Victoria's point of view as coming into this group and wanting to be a Jellicle cat and being told and being advised. So we see everything, instead of the audience being a character, we are seeing it now from Victoria's eyes. Victoria has an eye. What's annoying to a lot of people is Grisabella. The whole point of Grisabella's arc is she wants to be accepted. She wants to be touched. She wants to be included. And in the movie, one of the worst aspects is she recoils from Victoria. She runs away. When Victoria tries to touch her, she runs away. Halfway through the movie. Like, what? No, because that's the whole point of this character. She is desperate for that touch. Then Victoria has an I Want song, because Victoria is the protagonist and she gets a song because she's a famous pop star and she needs her 5 minutes. But Victoria's I Want song is, well, you had good memories, so be happy with it. I didn't, so fuck off. Like that's literally her I Want song.
Right.
And the other thing is that Victoria touches Grisabella in the song Memories, but in the movie version she touches Grisabella and pulls her up before the line "touch me," which completely throws out the whole entire point of the movie. Of the piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the agency is constantly being removed from Grisabella and given to Victoria. Grisabella doesn't do anything without Victoria, and that's the problem. Like even in the stage show, Victoria listens to the older cats throughout the movie until that "touch me" line.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I did not put myself through that movie. I couldn't even watch the trailer.
I did it. I did it for you. I did it for you. So you guys didn't have to.
Like I grew up the music. When you were talking about why it was so popular, I figured you were just going to say because of the music. Because I did grow up with. I think it's the Cats is Andrew Lloyd Webber, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I had a tape, or like a double tape or a double disc or something like that was a bunch of Andrew Lloyd Webber songs, and there were some cats in it, and that's how I got introduced to Phantom. And I really love Phantom, even though it's a dumb fucking play. It's like good music though. There's some good stuff in Cats, but the musical itself, yeah, no, I could never get into. So
To each their own, I suppose. Again, I'm not a big fan of Cats. Again, from the technical standpoint, and what makes it work and why it was changed. The reason why it was changed, first of all, it was a misunderstanding as to what made the story connect with people. And again, it is that redemption arc. It's the whole, and when you say the words, but nothing else backs up what you're saying, and everything is a contradiction to what you're saying, it doesn't work. So the whole play, people are watching Grisabella, and she's desperate for that touch. She's trying, she's reaching out, and she's not getting it. Whereas in the play, people are reaching out to her several times, and she recoils from them. She backs away from them, which is contrary to her character, and then contradicts what she sings towards the end of the show. And so again, it's the revisionism. It's yes, any piece of art is open to interpretation, but when you completely dismiss why it was popular in the first place, or why it connected with them, it's a play about cats.
Well, I mean,
yes, it is a play about cats.
You know that they don't care about, you know, what was important. They care about what's going to make them the most money. It's the same thing they did with Star Wars. So that's why Hollywood.
But that's the thing. Cats flopped, and Cats flopped because they didn't understand why it was so popular in the first place. That complete misunderstanding, that touch from Victoria, and deciding to make Victoria the main character, completely undermines the entire show. Andrew Lloyd Webber came out and said it was shit. They didn't include anyone. The other thing is these movie makers, and again, this is not just aimed at musicals. We were talking about Avatar yesterday. These movie makers look at a thing and they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, they don't appreciate the work that's gone into it. So they don't include the people who originated it, who wrote it initially, and who knew how to make a story work.
Yeah.
Now, there is a bit of a difference, which I will talk about in a few minutes. And there was something when I brought this up last week and said I was going to do this stream, you got very defensive about a particular someone. Yes. You got defensive. About Lynn.
Because I haven't seen In the Heights yet. So I was just speaking to Hamilton specifically.
Okay. Well, that's something that I wanted to kind of go back to. So when it came to Les Mis, one of the things that made Les Mis good was the central theme, the central focus throughout the entire play was the ensemble, was Parisian life. It was Paris. And what the movie did, instead of focus on the people of Paris and instead of giving them their real moments to shine, they focused on the main characters and those close-up of the main characters instead of Paris. And in the play and in the book, Paris is the main story. You see these individuals and they go into great detail about the individuals in the book, painstakingly detailed, to the point where you're almost in tears because there's so much fucking detail about these individual characters. But Paris itself, both in the book and in the stage show, Paris, it is all about that city being a character, you know, and the movie completely removes that. So when you have these beautiful back streets of Paris, instead of focusing, you've not seen any musical I can think of to sit through, but yeah, instead of seeing Paris as a character, it's just a setting. And when you remove Paris and the poverty and the dirt on the streets, which is what they're singing about, and the griminess of it compared to the people who have wealth and etc. etc. I mean, if you read Victor Hugo's book, he is vicious. He is writing this in the 1860s, 1870s, and from London or from England. And he is vicious when it comes to the church, when it comes to the monarchy, when it comes to the people around the monarchy who brought back, and it's not just that particular book. Tale of Two Cities is another one. He is vicious when it comes to Paris or France, but he always includes France, same with a few of his other works, as a character itself.
Yeah. No, I get
now
that.
the stage show removes that a little bit, but still keeps the kind of griminess, and the ensemble is very, very present at all times. But the movie just completely removes it.
Yeah.
And what's worse is when they remove it, they don't explain that they're removing it. They don't explain that it's revisionist, which is basically just trying to present a different view of history than what actually happened. And this is where I want to bring Hamilton in, because Hamilton does the same thing in places. But the difference is when talking about the musical, its creators admits to revising certain aspects for the show.
Yeah.
So the likes...
he explains like why as well, and so I get it. It's art. He's not trying to straight up tell the story of how we became a country or whatever. And I know why he does what he does. There are some things like as open as they are about the slavery thing, it still doesn't really showcase some, like, Washington had slaves, but he's portrayed as he's like that one part where they asked if are we all free yet or whatever, and he says not yet, as if he cares about the black people, which I don't think they really did as much. I don't know. They're just little pieces that maybe you shouldn't have whitewashed so much, but otherwise I understand the reasoning behind him changing certain things. I do.
I like that, Rob. The producers think that the audience is stupid and wouldn't understand the nuance of non-human characters. Exactly. Very true. He basically just defined Tusk. I'm joking. No, but the point that I wanted to make was wherein Les Mis, they don't really comment on the changes that were made or why they were made. Hamilton openly admits to revisionism. Hamilton openly, Lynn actually says in several interviews, well, I forgot that she had brothers, and it works better for the story if Angelica Schuyler had no brothers, so she couldn't actually marry Alexander, who she was actually married 3 years before she actually met Alexander Hamilton. But for the story wise, obviously you have to condense the time. And so he only has 2.5 hours to get this story across. So story wise,
22 minutes.
Yes. But story wise, it works better if for economic reasons she can't marry him. She is the first in the time we're talking about. Women were still seen as property for the most part. They couldn't choose who they married typically. Now, what's interesting is in the Schuylers family, there was 15 children.
Are you serious? There was?
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
The Schuyler sisters presented in Hamilton were 3 of 15.
Yeah. Well, no, how many? Well, 3 of 15 brothers and sisters. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
But they were 3 of 15 children. But you can't. They didn't all have a role to play in the Hamilton story. Angelica and Peggy were the main ones, and that's why they were included.
Exactly.
The other thing, well, it's also a comparison and a kind of nod to the Supremes and stuff like that, who Lynn is particularly fond of. But even in the Hamilton household, there were 7 children, not 2. Sure, by the time Philip, in the second act, we meet Philip, who is the Hamilton's firstborn son. Philip had 2 brothers by the time he was 9 years old. But in the play, he says, I have a little sister, I want a brother. In reality, he already had 2 brothers. For the story, it doesn't work. So it was omitted. And it's just little things like that. But the point is, it's not hidden.
Yeah.
It's not hidden. And that's where Hamilton gets it right. None of their revisionism is hidden. They will openly admit. The other thing was, I thought was funny, was the Tomcat remark. Hamilton is, in the opening numbers, Hamilton is basically insinuated that he's a womanizer before he meets Eliza, which is not really true. And there's a line saying Martha Washington named her feral tomcat after him. And Hamilton breaks the fourth wall and says, that's true. It's not. It's really not. It's really not.
It's still, but it's so cute that he says that's true. Like the way he does that. I know that doesn't matter. Like, come on, it really doesn't. But that's adorable. Like that's just a cute little part of the show. I don't know. I like it.
So they revised Hamilton's position, right? So his position on, because I've studied this shit. Unfortunately, I have studied this, and the position was that Hamilton's mother had 2 slaves. Before she passed away, she had 2 slaves. But because he was seen as a bastard, he didn't inherit those slaves, which is a good thing. So he's seen all of the slaves come and go as part of the slave trade on St. Nevis's Island. And he went to work for his mother's employer. Hamilton himself was kind of wrapped up with the anti-slavery movement, but he was never officially a part of it.
Abolitionists.
Yeah, that was John Lawrence. John Lawrence, who was rumored to be having a relationship with Hamilton at various points, which I don't doubt. Because it wasn't they didn't really care at that point. They were all going to die soon. That was the feeling in throughout the war. They could die at any minute. So yeah, wherever they found love and companionship, they found it, which is not a bad thing. So Hamilton himself never actually owned slaves. He never owned slaves. However, there were times where he either purchased slaves for his relatives, which would have been Eliza's relatives, or he engaged in the slave trade in some way, shape, or form. But a lot of his work in the early days was writing things with and proofreading as well. A lot of John Lawrence's work. When they were in camp, aid the camps to Washington, they did write pamphlets together, and it was more Lawrence that was interested in anti-slavery rhetoric than Hamilton. But he wasn't against slavery. He wasn't for slavery. In the play, they ham it up a little bit too much.
One thing that bugged me though about that was, the beginning callbacks to, or what's going to happen or whatever. And Lawrence slash Philip, his son's name is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say that says that he killed him, but like that's not really true, because like as he says, he was leaving. He was on his way home from the war, so he was just saying because he was involved in the war at all, that's on Hamilton and therefore he killed it. Like, I don't know. I just don't like.
So in the opening number, John Lawrence, Anthony Ramos, who plays John Lawrence and Philip Schuyler, says, "I died for him." Now,
that's what it is. I died for him.
John Lawrence died in the Revolutionary War, which he signed up to with Hamilton. It wasn't that Hamilton convinced him to sign up. He was already kind of using the rhetoric. He just hadn't signed up for the fighting yet.
Yeah.
So he did, but where he was stationed was partly down to Hamilton, and partly down to him, partly his own decision. Now, the idea of George Washington fucking him out because he went against him, that is not true. Yes, he did leave the war. Hamilton left the war, but Hamilton chose to leave. And he came back a few months later, and it was mainly because of the conditions. He left and because he wasn't being given a commission. He was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna be ignored, and nobody's going to listen to what I have to say, then I'm gonna say it from over there, and I'm going to be comfortable with my wife. So go fuck yourselves. And then he was actually given, the reason why he came back is what he was actually given a commission. He was given men to lead, like in Battle of Yorktown. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff like that, and there's small subtle things, and it's attributed to the wrong people, like Jefferson, Madison, and Burr coming to see him about the embezzlement accusations. That was actually 3 different people, one of whom owned a rival newspaper. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was the idea that he was sacked. John Adams never fired Hamilton. Never. They didn't like each other, but he never fired Hamilton. Hamilton resigned in 1794. Adams wasn't elected as president until 1796.
Okay. I think so. Again, little shit like that. Just
it's for the fanboys, who the devout fanboys, and like the point of it is not to deceive the audience. It's mainly because of time. That's the point I'm getting at. Whereas if you go back to Les Mis, it's not because of time, because they include things that just aren't fucking aren't important at all in the plot. They keep it in, or they add stuff like fucking, what's the song for Javert? Not Javert, for Valjean, where it's called Suddenly, I think it is.
Oh, I hate it when they add songs to musical movies because they're never good. They're never anything near as good as what's already in the show. Plus, you have a new writer or whatever, and it doesn't flow. I hate it when they do that.
Yeah, and it's so out of context. Mm-hmm. So in the play, it goes from him collecting Cosette from the Thénardiers, and then it jumps forward to the ensemble singing about how bad Paris is years later. The Look Down number, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. I love that number. Because it gives a realistic look at what Paris was like. People were starving, and it's a grittier number. It's one that you can really get behind. But in the movie, it goes from collecting Cosette to going to Paris and getting over the wall into Paris, which was so completely irrelevant. Nobody needed to know that there was barriers set up. Nobody needed to know that they climbed over a wall to get into Paris. No one needed to know that at all. Yeah. It was so fucking ridiculous. Like, it didn't move the plot along at all. It actually dragged it out a bit.
It feels like that there's a lot of that in the movie, though, to be honest with you. It really does.
Yeah, and so pacing issues. Like, if you go to see Les Miserables in the theater, it's fast paced. It is brilliantly paced. And it's evenly paced as well. Whereas like, you could skip fucking the Thenardier song. You can skip like the whole introduction to Eponine. Like, it's just
Yeah.
Thanks, Tusk. That's a valuable piece of information to know. Did you know that in North Korea in 1970s and 80s, the most popular movie was The Sound of Music with all the songs removed? Most sensible idea I've ever heard. Nice, Tusk, nice. But again, it's that when they rewrote all this stuff, there was nobody coming out and saying, well, this is why we've rewritten this is why we brought this in, this is why we excluded that. And it's a mishmash of uneven pacing. And it doesn't work. And again, something that like not a lot of people would know about is Hairspray. Hairspray does the opposite. Again, not a big fan of Hairspray, but
I know I've seen it, but for the life of me, I can't remember it. It wasn't my. I'm not big into the bubblegum bullshit, musicals. I like something with a little dark in it.
But that's for me. I'm not into the stereotypical musicals. I'm interested in the musicals with a societal undertone. And Hairspray, so if you've never seen Hairspray, I don't blame you, because the title itself is fucking ridiculous and horrible and shit. But Hairspray centers around it's 1960s Baltimore, very, very white suburban area. And the idea of a TV show that promotes quote unquote white values. Now, yeah. Have you never seen Hairspray? So the whole point of the movie
No, I've seen it. I just didn't hear the word you said. Did you say fatties?
No. What?
I didn't hear No, I just was asking.
Oh, white values, quote unquote white values.
Values. Okay, I just didn't hear the word. That's all.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So you have these antagonists who are for keeping the status quo of the white suburban area, the good kids, advising children how to act in the. I think actually one of the main characters actually uses the line that we have to push the kids in the white direction in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Velma is nasty. She's a horrible, horrible human being. Again, you see revisionism. So in the stage show, it's all about racial tensions. That's the undertone. That's why I was gravitated towards it. It is all about inclusion, because at the time, obviously on it was black and white TVs, and they were trying to promote skinny people, basically. Yeah. There's no sensitive way of saying that. They were against any other body type other than thin. Mm-hmm. And so you have this girl who's a little bit more plump coming in, stealing the show, who's for integration with blacks and whites. And yeah, so it's the whole show on Broadway focused on the kind of racial tensions. And in the show, Tracy doesn't. She goes on this. Who's the central character? She goes on a march for integration with the black community, and in the movie she attacks one of the police. And when I say attack, she basically hits him with a sign and says, "Hey, we're talking," like. And in the movie, they kind of say she bludgeoned this decorated officer and he's in hospital, and she just taps him with a sign. In the musical, she never attacks the police officer. The whole crowd is arrested just for them being there, Tracy included. So in the movie, you have this situation, a song called Without Love, where Zac Efron is fucking singing to a picture. And it's the most cringy thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Like it's so fucking cringy. Now, here's where Hairspray does what Les Mis doesn't. It moves the story on in a much better pace than on the stage show. The storyline in terms of in the racial discrimination is a lot better. Towards the end of it, there is a competition. There's a dance competition. The winner gets to be the main dancer on this show. In the stage show, Tracy wins the competition, and decides that it's now integrated, which is not her job to do. She's just a fucking dancer on the show. Whereas in the movie, Corny Collins, who's the host of the show, integrates the show because one of the girls that's brought on to dance is Black, and she wins. She ends up getting a tidal wave of calls supporting her, so she actually wins the competition. So that makes her the lead dancer on the show, which means it has to be integrated because she's won the competition.
Mm-hmm.
In the stage show, Velma, who is the evil, nasty, racist biatch, basically she gets a what is it? She gets a new role within the company. The whole thing is the sponsors of the show is a hairspray company, hence the name Hairspray. And she gets a new role within the company, and it has to do with interacting with Black people. And she ends up fainting, but by the end, she's redeemed and all the rest of it, and happy-go-lucky, have a good, nice ending of the show. In the movie, Velma gets fired. Velma gets fired, which makes me happy. So, like, the struggle for segregation in the movie is better displayed with more space. So when I decided to talk about this again, it was the Velma was in Scooby-Doo. It's all about the revisionism. It's not so much the musicals. It is about the changing of them and why it's necessary, why it's sometimes good, why it's sometimes absolutely batshit crazy, as in Cats. And that so for me, it's the storyline that's important. And when they change the storyline, this is what I was talking about when it came to In the Heights. Now, I don't want to spoil it for people, but spoiler alert. They changed. They changed.
I'm plugging my ears, so I'm just gonna. Mm-hmm.
They changed the entire plot. Have you seen the musical? Have you seen the stage show, or have you heard?
No, I wanted to. I want to really bad because I love him, but I haven't seen it. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna ruin it for you now. Well, I won't ruin it. Right. So here's the problem. When you watch a piece of theater or a piece of entertainment, or when you listen to a piece of entertainment, especially with something that's been revised or redone, you have to see them as separate pieces. They're not the same pieces. Because times have moved on, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. In the Heights, God.
No.
You can't see it as separate pieces, unfortunately. I mean, you can, and it's enjoyable if you didn't know the other thing existed. But I watched In the Heights off Broadway. I saw it when it was off Broadway. I was in the US. I was in New York, staying with a friend for a couple of weeks, and we went to an off Broadway show because we couldn't afford fucking Broadway. And it was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Cool.
So the whole plot of In the Heights is...
Okay, actually, you know what? Crafty. I'm going to go... I have to go bring something to my kid. So I'll let you do this, and that way it won't spoil it for me anyway. So I will be back while you talk, okay?
Yeah, no problem. Right. So the whole point of In the Heights is a struggling neighborhood in New York. It's being overrun by gentrification. It's being destroyed. People are moving out because they can't afford the rents or they can't afford the rates. And so it centers around Usnavi, who is the narrator for the entire show. And the main protagonist really would be Nina. And Nina is back from university. After her first year in university, she is struggling. And she basically tells them she quits. Now, this girl has never quit anything in her life. And so in the stage show, the plot is that Usnavi always wants to go back to the Dominican Republic, where he's from, where his parents are from, and he can't seem to get out of the poverty trap. He has this small store that his parents left to him, but he can never seem to get out of the poverty trap. Now, the next character, Abuela Claudia, she's the monarch. She is the or the matriarch, I should say. She's the matriarch. She looks after everybody. And she takes Usnavi under her wing and looks after him when his parents pass away. And she wins the lotto. So she's able to give Usnavi a better life, let him go back to the Dominican Republic like he wants, sell his store. And his cousin Sonny will actually run the store while he goes back to the Dominican Republic. He wants to take her. But in the meantime, Claudia passes away. So the problem with it is the plot of Claudia winning the lottery is completely removed. It's gone. He says, in the movie that nobody ever knows who won the lottery. So that plot point, which moves most of the story along in the musical, is completely removed. They make Usnavi, instead of just a narrator, basically seeing all these stories and trying to put them together and make some sense out of it for the audience. He's now the central character in the movie. And his, my sort of musical, to be fair. So he takes center stage with his love interest, who's given her a much bigger role. Nina and her conflict with her family and her love interest takes a back seat. They're kind of back to the best part of a musical is the end. Yes. But she's basically taken a back seat. And the bigger thing is that in a world full of dominant male characters, as a lot of musicals are, there is a real problem with Nina's story arc being set back. First of all, the biggest change is that she loses her mother. She's given the Disney princess effect, where in the stage show, her mom is front and center. She is usually the guiding light and tells the husband what to do and talks some sense into him, like most women are. There's a line in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where her mother says, the man might be the head of the family, but the woman is the neck. She can move the head any way she wants. And so the problem, first of all, is with Claudia being taken out of the equation, the matriarch of the community being taken out of the equation. Nina's mother in the musical is kind of presented as the step-in. She is the one that will fill Claudia's shoes. The other main leading female character is Daniela and Carla, and they are moving their business out of Washington Heights and into the Bronx, where rates are cheaper. So with Carla being removed, with Daniela being removed, there's no woman to take that mantle of talk sense like most of there's no matriarch of the community anymore, with Nina's mum being taken out of the equation. And the other thing as well is it takes out a very strong female leading role for the sake of a love story. And yes, I know some people like the love story, but removing that role, it's a big loss for the story. There is one thing in the movie adaptation that I really, really liked, and that was Abuela Claudia tells Nina, we have to focus on the little details that tell the world that we're not invisible. And that's the kind of driving force that convinces Nina to go back to university by the end of the musical. But when you take out when they were developing the show initially, Lin-Manuel Miranda actually started writing it when he was 19. And throughout the trying to get it staged, there was a discussion with a producer who said, Nina is from a solid family structure where she has both parents and they're doing well, they're business owners. And one of the lines in the opening song is, everybody's got a job, everybody's got a dream. So this is not, the poor Latinos. It's supposed to break the stereotype of the Latinos. So you have a solid family structure. When you remove the important elements, the story doesn't make any sense. That's what it was like removing that. But so what the producer said was, I will produce this musical on Broadway. I will give you the money. I'll rent out the theater, but you have to have. But the stakes aren't high enough. In the musical, Nina drops out of college because she gets a scholarship. The scholarship just covers her tuition, but then she has to work. And because she has to work so much, because it's so expensive, she doesn't really have time to study. So she's paying $800 for a textbook that she'll never read because she doesn't have the time to read it, which in turn makes her scores a lot worse because she doesn't have the time to study to make the grades. And so she ends up kind of losing her scholarship, essentially. And so when you remove that, so in the movie, she leaves because of racism. Now, any Latino, any racial, ethnic group will tell you that they face racism every day of their lives from the age of dot. So the idea of having one negative racial experience is enough to send this very, very strong, driven woman to run away from college doesn't make sense to the character. And that's a problem, whereas in the stage show, the reason why so many people gravitated towards Nina was because it was the economic reasons. It wasn't just race. This was a problem for working class children, people who, I am the first in my family to ever go to university. I was the first so I associate with Nina because in the stage show, she is the first to go to college. I was the first to go to college because we could never afford college. And that's not something that we were taught to believe in, that we could ever do it. So that's an important aspect to her character, that she couldn't make it in university, not because she had one negative experience with race or racial tensions or racism, because that's something that she would have faced every day of her life. But instead, it was because she couldn't afford to live. So she had to work in order to live, in order to go to college. But because she had to work, she didn't have the time to focus on her studies. And that was the problem. So she's brought back to the heights, and now she's back in the poverty trap. But because of what happens throughout the course of the musical, because she's seeing that she is the representation of her community, and that community transcends race. She's driven back to college, and that was the redemption arc for Nina.
Wait, which one are we talking about? Sorry.
Still in the Heights.
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Well, anyway, sorry, my bad. 17-year-old. It's his first day of school today, actually. So.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
That was exciting, I'm sure.
I'm always sad when he goes back to school. I miss him. So, yeah.
Understandable. But I'm finished my rant with In the Heights. But when you when you change the story so entirely from what made it, again, it's an example of changing the and what's worse is this wasn't the people who are just big producers. Lin-Manuel Miranda has come out and said, I refused to give my show to this producer because he said the stakes weren't high enough. And I felt that being the first person to go to college and all that stress and having to work and not being able to have the time to do your studies, that was enough stakes for most of us.
Mm-hmm.
He refused to put it on stage with a producer because of those comments. And then the same people who wrote the show with him, Kiara and himself, rewrote the entire fucking show, taking out huge plot points to make it more like a symbiotic relationship between Usnavi and Nina, but they go their separate ways and they diverge and they just go separate ways. One stays in the barrio and the other goes back to university. So they completely rewrote the fucking show, and that was my problem.
Okay.
Again, not understanding why the fucking thing worked in the first place, or hate to say it, and I love Lin. I love his whole attitude, but selling out. Not that I believe that he did. But
he doesn't sell out. He doesn't need to sell out.
Well, I mean, when you change the entire fucking plot for your own show, yes, rewrites are important.
I'm sure he has a reason for it that isn't selling out.
I'm sure he does, but I am allowed to have my opinion and say that it's bullshit. So yes, I won't. You've missed all the spoilers. One thing I will comment on though, I do like the fact that in 96,000 they took out Donald Trump's name and replaced it with someone else.
Gotcha.
Because fuck Donald Trump.
So I have to get going in 10 minutes. So if you have anything that you specifically wanted to cover with me.
No, I just wanted your opinion, mainly.
All right. Cool.
And someone to bounce off.
Well, I meant like a specific show, other than Hamilton.
Well, what shows have you noticed have been rewritten? I mean, the Aladdin one was removed. They removed racist stereotypes, references to slaves, etc. Like in Prince Ali.
That.
Yeah. Jasmine gets a servant. Yeah. Some of the songs are completely rewritten.
Obviously, Phantom was terrible, which sucks because I love Emmy Rossum. She's just amazing and beautiful and so talented. And I love, but again, I don't really love the show Phantom very much. I love the music, but the show's kind of meh. Most of Andrew Lloyd Webber's stuff is kind of crap, actually. So, yeah. Into the Woods. There was good points and bad points. How did you feel about Into the Woods?
Into the Woods is an interesting thing because when you see it on stage, which I have, I seen it in the West End, and when you see it on stage, every character has a point. And again, it kind of felt like they were replacing that for big name actors that would get people in, rather than stage actors who knew what they were doing, who knew how to fucking sing and perform. And they were just going for the names rather than throw big names at it and it'll stick. No.
Yeah.
No. That's not what happens.
Yeah. I hate it when they do that. again, going back to what I said earlier, maybe let those stage actors get these big parts. So.
Yep. And I suppose it comes on to the idea of why these stories are rewritten.
Mm-hmm.
Why revisionism happens. There's a few reasons. One, mainly because they probably want to move the plot along, which is understandable. There are a few musicals where it drags on a bit. Or that it's just, it doesn't translate to music. And one of the interesting things is Dear Evan Hansen has been picked up, and it's going to be, if you haven't seen Dear Evan Hansen, I do recommend it. But there's a lot of outrage.
I don't think I have.
There's a lot of outrage. I'm not going to give you the plot details. You're going to have to trust me. It is a good musical for those who like musicals. But Ben Platt, who originated the role of Evan Hansen, has been brought back in to the movie. And there's a lot of upset because he can't really portray a 17-year-old anymore because he's in his 30s. Now, if any of you do like musicals and are wondering who the fuck Ben Platt is, he is a stage actor, but he's also been in the likes of what's Pitch Perfect. He was Benji, the little magician person in Pitch Perfect. That's who I'm talking about. But he was absolutely fantastic in that role. They're bringing him back for the movie, and it's mainly because of him that the movie is being made. So it's understandable why they're allowing him to be in the movie. So, but why revise? Why fix something that's not broken? Basically, if it's worked for 20, 30 years on Broadway, why change it? It's the same reason why they're bringing fucking Ben Platt back in. It's because not everything that works on stage will work on screen. And the whole idea of being on stage, you have to project. Because of the distance between yourself and the audience, the physical distance, those in you're performing for those in the back.
Yeah.
So you're exaggerating. Everything is external. Whereas when it's on screen, you don't have to exaggerate because you can get cameras right up close to the performers. So there's things that will work on stage that just simply does not work on the screen. Like there are actors who are fantastic being on stage, but they don't really work on screen. And I was thinking about this the other day. My sister and I were watching Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the one with Alan Rickman in it. Fucking brilliant movie.
No, I like Men in Tights better.
Yes. And we were watching that the next day, actually. Weirdly enough, that was on one of the other channels. So, and my mom loves that one. But the point that I'm making was that was Alan Rickman's third role off the stage. So you can see a lot of his performance is still geared towards the stage. He over-exaggerates. Now, he tended to over-exaggerate in a lot of his roles. But, yes, Hans. Die Hard was his first role off Broadway. Which is fucking what?
I don't know that.
You don't know Die Hard, the movie Die Hard.
Die Hard. Sometimes your fucking accent it confuses me. Okay, talk like weird, crafty.
I do, and you love it.
I'm also stoned and eating jelly beans, so
that too.
Don't mind me.
I like jelly beans.
They're the have you ever had the Jelly Belly buttered popcorn ones?
No.
Oh my god. You have to find a way to get them. They're the best. Like, I know it sounds weird, but they're seriously the best jelly bean that has ever existed. They're so good. Anyway, I got like a huge bag of them today. We have there's a mom and pop ice cream store in the center of town, and they have a shit ton of candy, and it's like a lot of nostalgic candy. Like you have candy cigarettes, Pop Rocks. I have that.
Love Pop Rocks.
Yeah, wax lips, like pretty much anything you can think of. they have. It's super cool. So I spent a good amount of time there getting candy today.
Christian thinks I should talk more like Creaky. Creaky doesn't have an accent, apparently. But yeah, it's hard not to talk with an accent. Sorry. We can't all be blessed like Creaky. Yeah. Sorry.
No, right. I'm done.
Back to this, just to kind of wind up of why revisionism happens. So Alan Rickman had to learn how to perform to a camera instead of a stage, and he did it very well. He learned very well. If you look at who else, there's many stage actors who go on to say, you know, it's all about the internal. It's about the facial movements when you're on camera. When you're on stage, it's about the body movements. So it's for a more internal audience for the screen, where it's an external performance for the stage. But the other reason why you would change the story or change the action, whatever it is you're changing. First of all, for certain stage shows have a different clientele to screen audiences, mainly because of the price of admission to theaters. Have you ever tried to get in to see Phantom of the Opera? It's about fucking 60 quid for a decent seat. So a lot of kind of more working class people can't get to see. So it's usually a kind of upper middle class who will have the time and the cash to splash on theater. I'm the exception to that rule because I save up and I go to the theater. I love the theater.
I did that when I was younger.
The other reason is to sanitize it. By rewriting the lyrics of Les Mis, what they do is they remove agency, they change the agency, or they change the focus. So they sanitize it because for either a better rating, so a PG rating instead of a 15 rating. That's what Les Mis did by taking out the prostitutes, which is kind of understandable. Or removing it as much as they could, because Fantine, you know, that's part of her whole thing. So they couldn't remove it completely. But changing the focus as well from, again, the background of Les Mis, for instance, or Paris being a character to the love story or the specific story that you want to tell. And also either to fill in the blanks that the musical leaves out, or alternatively to cut out things unnecessarily that are unnecessary to the plot. So that you'll see a lot of musicals where they take songs out of it just because they don't have the time. Because in a lot of musicals, there's not a lot of talking. And in movie musicals, they need to add in dialogue. They need to have that dialogue. They need to have the discussions where it doesn't always happen on stage. So they're the main reasons that I can think of.
Very cool.
What say you?
It pisses me off when they change the shit for no reason other than to make it like look better or whatever. I don't know. I think rarely does it translate. Rarely are musical movies good. Hamilton was good. Everything else can suck a dick.
Did you hear that, Tusk? Yeah. Tusk says, so we are all agreed that musicals are shite then. Awesome, good talk. No, we are not agreed. Musicals are a way. Music has always been a way to bring people together. And if you're able to do that while telling a story.
No, wait. I'm sorry. There is an exception to the rule. I do love Guys and Dolls. It's got Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra. It's just fucking incredible. It's also one of my favorite shows. So go check that shit out. Marlon Brando when he was young and hot and thin. Yeah.
Singing in the Rain is one of my favorites, mainly for the story. Again, for the story. I love the story. Tattie-bogle says, Keelah's still talking about this. She's making a real song and dance over the subject, but come on, let me see them. Let me see the comments, the puns, if you can. Tusk is right. Give that man a dragon. No, Tusk does not get a dragon. Hashtag no dragon for Tusk. Tusk does not get a dragon. But yeah, so that's kind of my rant on things.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm eating jelly beans right now. That's annoying.
No problem. And let me just do one thing. I just want to make sure that I don't have any super chats that I haven't spoken of. But yes, the whole point of the Keelah talks is so that I can rant about anything I fucking well want. And you fuckers have to listen. Well, you don't have to listen, but I appreciate you listening, even though you don't like musicals. You don't have to. It's more the rewrites that I'm interested in. That is a puppy. We got the dog. Yeah. I like Rob. Yeah. Musicals are a true art form that explores fantasy in the real world. Void Rider, I found Singing in the Rain all wet. Yep, it'll do that too. I was just saying I don't have any more super chats, and Tattie-bogle decided to super chat. Did you miss this super chat for £2? £2. Thank you, Tattie. I did not miss that super chat. I do appreciate it, but there was times where I was looking at my notes instead of the screen. So, yeah. I love this. You realize that 15 or so just sat here and listened while some stoner chick nodded along to some random Irish wench. Yes, I am a wench, and I am proud of it. Who showed up and ranted about the Cats movie while she was munching. Yep, that happened.
Well, some stoner chick? What the fuck? Okay.
You did say you were stoned. You did say you were stoned. It was a nice sum up.
Okay.
I
have degrees in astrophysics and climate.
I know, right? I know.
Like, some stoner chick is a little hurtful.
Let's forget that you're an accomplished fucking woman, but
I worked for NASA, so like, sorry.
Something that we will definitely be investigating in the future. No, I do appreciate you coming on. And it's an absolute fucking pleasure. I love speaking to you. And again, if you are not subbed to Amanda, if you're not subbed to Pale Blue Mama, where the fuck have you been? She is. You're getting to your 2K. You are getting to your 2K. And I'm just going to drop that there because that is Pale Blue Mama's YouTube. Apparently, Maison Particle follows you on Twitter now too.
Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. It's Non-Stamp Collector followed me on Twitter today.
Nice. So what have you got coming up on your channel? Or have you got anything left?
I mean, John and I are going to do God's Not Dead 2, but probably on his Twitch channel. So I don't know when. So go sub to, well, he probably wouldn't be on Twitch unless we do that, but obviously everybody's subbed to Dark Matter, so that doesn't matter. And I'm doing something Sunday. I have shows at 7 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. I don't know what it is this week. And I have a new climate video coming out in the next week or so.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, please do watch out for that. Support Pebble Mama as much as you possibly can because she's fucking awesome. Thank you. Rob Parks says my Fair Lady is my favorite. What is yours?
Mine is Hamilton.
Mine is Les Mis.
Of course it is.
And yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why is because one of my earliest memories was seeing my granddad play Valjean in Dublin, and he was just he had a voice like Mario Lanza, and it was one of the only times I ever heard him sing. He gave up a lot for his family, and so when the 25th anniversary happened, he was in and around the scene with a few other Irish stars that will not be mentioned, but they got us tickets to the 25th anniversary. So we were there, and it was the last thing I ever saw of him.
Oh.
He passed away 3 years later.
Mm-hmm. At least you have that memory.
Yeah. Les Mis is definitely very, very special to me. No, I love Hamilton, and what's great is my niece absolutely adores Hamilton, absolutely fucking adores it. She knows it back to front off by heart, and I actually got Tusk's partner Etty to watch Hamilton with me. So
cool.
I'm not against Hamilton. I think there's a lot of
I never
got right.
That.
Just for the stream, because I'm waiting for the comments saying you're against Hamilton. I'm not. Fucking love it. But yeah, for sure, my favorite would be either Singing in the Rain or Les Mis. For the stage show, Les Mis, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Crafty, and thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out, I guess.
So with that, it's time to act. Let's storm Broadway and take over the means of productions. I love it. The means of productions. No, sorry. Sociology reference, also a musical reference. Anyway, guys, thank you for actually sticking around, even though like there's 19 people watching. You guys are awesome. I will be back on Friday to discuss what freedom of speech actually means, how it developed on Ion Society. It is going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. So until then, please be safe. Wear your fucking mask. Get your fucking vaccines. And yeah, I will see you in the chats somewhere at some point. Bye, people. Say goodbye.